What are other strategies besides timeout? And ask Trish this question.
Well, timeout is for very specific behaviors, and so it's often with, with the tantrums or the hitting, but there is also quiet time. So perhaps you've asked your child to stop watching TV and they refuse, and so, you can explain to them, okay, I've given you a warning, and I'd like you to turn off the TV, and if they don't, then there's quiet time for that. Which is just removing them. They're in the same area, you're turning the TV off, they're in the same area, and it's very similar to timeout, but they're not moved into that timeout area. There's, different behaviors, and so different consequences, and we talked about whining and ignoring for certain, behaviors like that.
If I can add as well, parents are always interested, what can I do for discipline? What do I do when my child misbehaves? And I'm very happy to say that Triple P actually has two very big segments, and a big part of it is how do I prevent behaviors. It's always easier to prevent the problem than it is to actually deal with it afterwards. So a big part of it is you want to encourage that relationship, build that relationship. Things as simple as a lot of times we feel guilty as parents because we're not spending enough time with our children. We want to give all this time. But what research shows is that 1 to 2 minutes is quality time with your child, and that's what you have to give. But what you have to remember is you want to give it when your child is approaching you, because you're sending a very important message. You're telling that child, you're important enough for me to stop what I'm doing, and I can address your needs right now. If you can't do that, because sometimes we're making supper, we can't do it, let that child know, I'll get back to you in 2 minutes. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to see your drawing, and get back to them. So if you tell them 2 minutes, respect the 2 minutes, so keep it realistic for yourself as well. Other strategies, you want to encourage the positive, because a lot of times what I hear in practice is a lot of parents will say, I know my child's just doing it for attention. Your child is doing it for attention. And as parents, we have to stop and think, how much attention am I giving my child for bad behavior? And how much attention am I giving my child for good behavior? A lot of times I hear people say, I'm just leaving them alone because they're behaving. This is the time to intervene and use praise. Praise is one of the biggest skills you can use to help encourage those positive behaviors. So go up to your child and say, you know what? Mommy is so proud of how you're playing so nicely with your brother or sister right now, and leave it at that. So you're really helping them identify what behavior they're doing well and what they're doing to please you. So you're encouraged the likelihood that it's going to happen again. Same thing if you have an older child. If your older child goes and does their homework without asking, how wonderful is that? Taking those 2 minutes and saying, I'm very proud you did your homework on your own today and I didn't even have to ask you. Taking those moments, and when they're recognizing that, I can get attention for doing good things and it feels good, then they'll more likely do good things. But if they find out the only way I'm going to get mom's attention because she's always, working with the baby or she's busy at work, the only way I'll get attention is if I misbehave, because we know that if the child bites someone, we're going to react to that right away. We know we have to deal with it right away. So we give a lot more attention, or we make it easier for the child to get attention for negative behaviors. So I think it's really important when we talk timeouts, we're all interested about that, but to not forget that positive parenting, a big part of it is preventing some of those behaviors from occurring in the first place.
Thank you. We have another question that came in. Excuse me. What are some of the key messages around positive interactions? I know you touched base a little bit on that, but Connie, if you can speak to that a little bit more. Some key messages around positive interactions.
Key messages around positive interactions.
Yeah. Or anybody.
I know it's online, it's difficult to clarify, but would this be looking for strategies to improve interaction between parent and child?
I guess that would be an appropriate assessment to what that question would be.
Two key words come to mind: time and respect. Number one is always making that one-on-one time so critical with your child and with your children. And some of the things that Kathy was just talking about was some of our children, they learn that negative attention, it's still attention. And not learning those healthy ways of getting that positive attention is what it's about. And if we take those few minutes, give that positive encouragement, praise our children. Like they say, there's over 150 ways to say to your child, way to go. And it's that little pat on the back that is so critical for our children to build their self-esteem, to build their confidence, and to develop the relationship with the parents, to be able to approach the parents, to be able to talk to them, to be able to trust them. Communication is so important. With praise, cannot say it. Emphasize it enough. Any other input you might have, ladies?
I think going back and building a little bit on, you were talking about affection and, respect and everything. It's going back to some of those strategies that it's not rocket science, but sometimes it's going back to the basics, giving a hug. If your child doesn't like to be touched, finding out, how does my child like to receive affection? That might look like a, little wink of the eye or a thumbs up, but making sure that you're giving your child affection, quality time, again, 1 to 2 minutes. We can fit that in, walking to the car, or whenever your child might be bringing up a drawing or something that happened at school. And again, just taking the time to talk. That can be squeezed in. I know we all have conflicting things that going on in our world and everything, but sometimes it's, let's just talk. And there's nothing that builds a relationship more than that.
Wonderful. Before we move on to another question here, I just want to ask our parent, Rebecca, here a question. We're pleased to have Rebecca with us this evening. She's a parent involved with P before. And can you share with us your experiences with P and how it has impacted your family?
Sure. Last year, our family, our 4-year-old and my husband and I welcomed a new baby to our home and our family. And our daughter was very welcoming of this baby and loved him and very kind, but as soon as he started crawling, about 6 months old, her perception of him changed. He was now a little more intrusive into her world, where she had us exclusively for 4 years. And we started to experience behaviors and challenges with her in this regard. Many reasons for this, but I always say that we as parents develop some bad habits from being with the baby, or me being with the baby, and a lot of times when I was nursing, that's when a lot of these behaviors and challenges would occur. I had heard about the P program and went on the Best Start Hub website and found a group session that was going to be occurring in the fall, and enrolled myself in the program. It was a very positive experience for us because we were able to develop new strategies in our home that complemented having a baby in our home. The strategies before that we were using weren't necessarily working, so these new strategies that we implemented in our home helped us reduce the strategies, and a lot of what Kathy said was about the prevention. So again, preventing, when I knew that the challenges occurred when I was nursing, changing the ways that we were doing things to prevent the behaviors from occurring. The group session was helpful because it was a small session in a very non-judgmental, positive environment that allowed everyone to talk openly about their experiences and receive feedback at the same time. Part of the group sessions also included some one-on-one phone sessions, which I felt were the most helpful because we were able to talk about what we learned in the class and dig a little bit deeper into how we can modify or change the strategies that we were learning. So from then on, it was a positive experience, and we continue to use a lot of those strategies in our home today.